Okay. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Danny Evans, and I teach Spanish at Southall Middle School. This is my 19th year.
All right. And then you had two daughters go to the World Language Academy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions about it. How long were your daughters at the academy? Was it the whole time?
No, it was different for each girl.
Okay.
My oldest daughter, Gracie, was going into the 4th grade the year they opened it.
Mm-hmm.
So she was there 4th and 5th grade. And then Zoe was there kindergarten, 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
And then moved to a different school.
Do you think having them there for different periods of time made a difference, or?
It did. The biggest thing that made a difference was my oldest daughter wasn't there to start at the beginning, so she wasn't in the immersion side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But my youngest was there from kindergarten, so she was really immersed.
Okay.
So my oldest didn't really get as much as the other one did.
Okay. What were the more difficult aspects of having the two different languages, having to learn in both languages, things like that?
Really, the only thing I remember ever dealing with was making sure that my youngest, I didn't have any problems with the oldest that I can remember, that my youngest was able to write and spell things like that in English effectively as well.
Right.
Just making sure that. But, I don't remember it being a real issue. That was the only concern that really ever came up. So.
Do you think it took away from the curriculum that they're supposed to be learning, having that second language?
I don't really remember any gaps, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It seems like they had everything they needed to be successful for that grade level.
Okay. What about as far as extracurriculars? Do you think there is a sufficient number of options that they could choose from if they wanted to participate?
The best I remember, yeah, they had a lot of choices. See, to the best of my memory, it's been several years. But
So you don't think that took away from like a normal elementary school?
No, I don't think so at all.
Okay. Did they seem more stressed than they might have been in a normal school, just having that second language?
To me, not at all.
Okay. What about differences in grades? Did you see, especially with your older daughter not being there as long, did you see an improvement in grades, especially when it comes to English?
I'm trying to remember. I really think she stayed consistent from where she was before. I saw a pretty consistent transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you notice different ways in which your daughters interacted with different ethnicities? Did that change at all?
From what I noticed, I know it sounds like everything's great because it really was, but what I noticed, they seemed to act the same around everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it didn't change, they didn't have a preference, they didn't...
No.
Nothing?
Not that I noticed
Good.
anything. So.
Do you accredit, any of their personality aspects, towards having both languages? Do you think they're more outgoing, knowing that, especially in this area, they can speak to anyone that is a Spanish speaker if they need to?
Yeah, they're both very different. My oldest, who only had 4th and 5th grade, obviously didn't pick up as much as my youngest starting in kindergarten. So now, although she's now in Spanish 5 in high school, she is a little bit, skittish about speaking Spanish. Like we were just in Costa Rica, and, she really wasn't wanting to try very much.
Yeah.
But my youngest, she was pretty fluent by 2nd grade, and she now, I don't know if it's because she's like me in kid version, she got language and things, music from me, or if it has to do with that. But she very much has an interest in language, and she went to Chestnut Mountain for a while, and now she's wanting to pick it back up, and it's something that she really wants to do.
Okay. So are they both fluent?
No.
No?
No.
Your oldest isn't?
No, and she's pretty good, but her problem is she's very shy about opening her mouth and having a conversation.
Right.
So, yeah.
I don't know how involved you were, but do you think parents are more or less involved at a World Language Academy than they are at your typical elementary school?
If, honestly, I've been to both Chestnut Mountain and I've been to World Language.
Mm-hmm.
I see equal amount. I mean, there are lots of parents in both places.
Okay. Was it just Spanish that was spoken, or any other languages?
They were immersed in Spanish, but they had Chinese classes as well.
Okay. Do you think there should be any changes where they add more languages that they're immersed in, or do you think there should be any changes at all?
Well, it's hard to say because, you can have good ideas, but they may not work with a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be good if they were exposed to being immersed in Chinese for a certain amount of time a day and being immersed in Spanish. Maybe even, not half and half or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but a third and a third and a third. I don't know how you would break that up. But it would be good to see them immersed in all those languages because, studies show phonetically linguistically they would pick up all three.
Right.
So,
were there any extra costs in sending them to the dual language?
the only extra cost I can think of would be, just buying uniforms. But
Okay.
you got to buy clothes anyway
yeah.
for kids. So.
All right, understandable. And so the next few questions I have are going to be more about your experience as a Spanish teacher.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a situation in which a native Spanish-speaking parent did not want their child in a dual language program or even just a Spanish class?
No, I've never seen that.
Never?
No.
Okay, so I was just making sure because I know that there are different types of Spanishes and different countries use the different types.
Sorry, I was asking a question.
No, you're fine. So I just didn't know if a Spanish-speaking parent would want to make sure that their specific type of Spanish was spoken, if they were picky about that.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but I've noticed our students, that's about it, who
Mm-hmm.
noticed that, my Spanish is a little different, and Miss Bates' Spanish is a little different. She's from Chile, and mine's pretty much straight Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
not the slang, so.
Right.
But not from parents.
All right. What about, just in general, do you see a difference in students who take Spanish versus those who don't? So do you see a difference in grades? Do you see a difference in whether or not they try a little bit harder?
Honestly, I see the normal range in all of my students. You would think, because we're high school credit in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
you would think that we're getting, the cream of the crop. But, we get the wide range, low achievers from high achievers. So I really don't see a difference in.
So if a low achiever was in a different class where maybe it's accommodated more for their low achievement, do you think their grades are different in here versus that other class?
It's hard to say. Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a lot of comparison there between me and the other teachers. To be
Right.
honest with you, so.
What about student relations? Do Spanish speakers who are not native speakers get along better with native speakers than they do if they didn't speak Spanish at all?
To answer this question, I really only know what the students tell me.
Right.
And what they tell me is, I'm always stressing you've got to practice
Mm-hmm.
with a native speaker is the key. But they say, well, they make fun of me sometimes. But, that's really the only thing I see.
Right.
But, otherwise they get along fine.
Okay. With only having your students for 2 years or less, do you believe that they retain the knowledge of the language or can actually use it later on? I know it's important for careers eventually, but
Yeah.
do they actually take it away from this class?
I think they do. I think they all do. I really do. The difference is the ones who really practice it, those are the ones who internalize it, and it